This is Flip Lesson 7.8, looking at fractions and percents in the inch ruler. As we look at our picture here today, we're seeing an example of how to write these expressions like a fraction or a percentage. As I look at this circle, the question would be how much of the circle is shaded. And since we see, okay, there's a blue section and a white section, we would say one of the two sections has been shaded. And what percentage would this be? Well, we understand that 1/2 is the same as 50%. And so we have those relationships that we've used before, and we understand very well. Let's continue on and practice using these concepts. Sometimes when we look at pictures that are representing numbers, we get into what are known as mixed numbers. And so as we look at mixed numbers, we need to figure out what this is, right? So this is 1 plus 1 plus, right? 1 section, 2 section, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? 2 are the 6 sections. From here, we're going to get an answer of 2 and 2, 6. 2 of the 6 sections have been shaded. But wait, these numbers are both even, so let's reduce this fraction, divide them both by 2, and suddenly we get a nice fraction of 1/3 for a final answer of 2 1/3. And so we have a mixed number. From here, let's pull in this idea and see if you can solve this sample problem. It says, what is the fraction and percentage of the, words are getting cut off, the third circle, right? And so I can zoom back up to that third circle and you can look at it real quick. Fraction part should be pretty easy at this point, but also find the percentage, please, and write it as a mixed number if needed. All right, you've taken time to solve that problem, so let's move on and understanding this concept. It says, which of these ideas best represents the picture? So as we look at the picture here, we see the fact that it is, it's half on the screen and half off the screen. So let's see if we can move it onto the screen. Make everything make a whole lot more sense. All right, there's our picture. As we look at this picture, the question is, which one of these numbers makes more sense? Is it half? Is it 40%? Or is it 60%? If you look at the picture, you're going to realize that this portion here is not equal to this portion, right? And so we would want to know, if we were looking for this section right here, right, which section is shaded, we would say, well, they're not equal, so half doesn't make sense, right? And the green section is greater, right? And since 60 is greater than 40, then C, ding, 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 is going to be the correct answer, right? And so we use our eyes to estimate and to evaluate, working with percentages and fractions. All right, nothing hiding on this one. Let's move on. From here, we can move on to what are known as number lines. Number lines, of course, help us represent fractional pieces of numbers. So if I have an expression 7, 8, 9, I could say, well, where does this starkly spar, I think I was trying to say sparkly star thing, what does it represent on the number line? Well, of course, we would say, well, okay, well, I'm going to 8. And if I were to continue counting, I would realize I did not quite make it to 9. So I have a whole number of 8. And then the expression is, well, what is this right here? Well, I count my spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 4 spaces, so that's where I'm going to get my denominator from. And then I'm going to count my dash marks then. 1, 2, and I get 2/4, and of course then I'm going to simplify that to 8.5, and of course we have that expression. Cruising right along then, the inch ruler. The inch ruler is a wonderful tool that we use on a regular basis to help us understand math. measurements. And it's a great way to understand how mixed numbers and fractions work together with lines or line segments. And so I could sit here and I could sit and look and say, okay, I'm going to measure this. To measure with a ruler, right, I'm going to make sure that my end of the ruler right here is lined up perfectly with the end of the line. And as I make my way over to X, right, I'm going to line it up with a piece of the ruler, and it seems to be coming right in the middle of two spaces. Right, so I'm going to make a correct estimate, right? And I'm going to use the bigger number here, like this, and say, okay, that is 4, and we're working at this one right here. So we're going to say 1/4, 2/4, 3/4. So we would say that line RX is 4 3/4 of an inch. Labels are important. Right? Now, if we just take a moment and look at our ruler here, we can see lots of different dash marks here, right? We have our half, we have our quarter, we have our 3/4. But then we can also get into these smaller lines, right? Our eighths, our 3/8, our 5/8, our 7/8. And of course, we can get even smaller now as we've worked with this, and we can get into our 16ths, 1/16, 3/16, 5/16, 7/16. Oh, what is that, 9/16, right? And so forth, working with that. And so as we work with the inch ruler, we want to be able to measure all the way through the 16th place as we use that. So if we come down here to our VW, right, we can line that up real nice. And if we were to measure that to the nearest mark, we could easily see that we're saying, okay, I got 1 inch, I got 2 inches, I got 3 inches, and I'm going to make it this little distance. And of course, by looking at that, in your understanding of the inch ruler, you say that is 3 1/8 of an inch. All right, moving on then. From here, we want to find the measure of each segment. All right, I've set up this ruler so that you can easily view it on the screen. I'll even move it closer just for your viewing pleasure. But go ahead and find the measurements of, first of all, ZE, second of all, EB, and third of all, ZB. Go ahead and pause the video. Finally, as we look at this, we can understand the inch ruler becomes a wonderful way to represent how to put things in order. So that if I were to look at this and say, okay, I want to put these fractions in order from least to greatest, right? Suddenly we have different denominators, and different denominators, of course, means that it's more difficult to arrange them. You can't just say, okay, we have a 1, 1, a 5, a 7, so let's just keep them in that order. Doesn't work that way, right? However, our inch ruler can come in handy here because we see the relationships, right? We see the half, we see the quarter, we see the 5/8, which is going to be right there, and we see the 7/16, which of course is going to be right here. All right, so go ahead and arrange those in order, and we'll check on those in your notes. And of course, that's the end of lesson 7.8. Fractions, percentages, and of course the inch ruler. Have a great day.